Hello everybody. Uh, I'm doing another contested territory video, and this week we have a new map, what some people call the Desert Stairs, and I've got rounds 100 and round 101 here. Round 100 is interesting, but if you really want to see the fun round, you can skip over to 5 minutes 45 seconds into the video, and that's when I start round 101. But if you want to hear me talk about the map and the towers, you can keep watching from here. So, on this map, the desert maps, we aren't allowed to use super monkeys or spike factories. So the strategy here changes a little bit. And the strategy I'm using in this video is one I mentioned last week, which is the mortar tower's pop and awe ability. And you can see right now that the DDTs get stunned for about 5 seconds each every time you use the ability. Now, if you read the description of the ability, it's not actually supposed to stun blimps, but it actually does in the way it works right now. DDTs and Moabs are stunned for about 5 seconds each. BFBs are stunned for about 3 seconds, and the ZOMGs are stunned for about 1 second. So you can chain those abilities and actually stun the blimps while the rest of your towers deal damage. Now, most of my damage to the blimps is being dealt by the Moab Assassins, which I have stuck underneath a couple of call to arms villages, and I'm chaining that ability so that all of those Moab Assassins get double attack fire rate. And while I'm doing that, I'm also using sabotage supply lines from the ninjas to slow down blimps. I'm using the pop and awe to stun the blimps briefly. And I'm using Ground Zero, Moab Assassin, and occasionally the Bloons aerial denial system, just to deal as much damage as I can. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much damage the Dartling ability is doing, but I figured I'd use it anyways since every little bit counts here. And yeah. So for this map, I've mostly focused on the Moab Assassins, the Cripple Moab Snipers, the Call to Arms Villages, the Pop and Awe Mortars, the Sabotage Supply Line Ninjas, and the Bloon Aerial Denial Dartling Gunners. Of course, I've got a couple of Viral Frosts across the map to slow down any regular balloons, and I've got a couple of Bloon Jitsus in the back to help out with a little damage. Now, round 100 here is, well, was fairly easy. I didn't get hit too hard, but you can see in the next round, which starts at 5 minutes and 45 seconds, that I actually got a much more difficult round generation in that round. So I actually had to sell off a couple towers and buy and resell towers just for using the abilities. And that's mostly just a mortar, and I may or may not have also bought and sold a Ground Zero. But this was just kind of to see how far I could get without temples and without spike factories. And I was able to get up to round 106. Well, I passed round 105 and then purposefully lost on 106 since I was kind of bored. And I got tired of spamming abilities. So, if you missed last week's video, I'll just briefly say some of the tricks here I'm using. I'm using the Moab Assassin to destroy the DDTs because it's a one-hit ability. I'm also using the Ground Zero for cleanup. Now it does a lot less damage, but you can have a few more of them and they hit every single balloon on the track, so it's fairly effective as well. The other thing I'm doing in this video is using the Pop and Awe to stun the blimps. Now this is very important when I've run out of Moab Assassin abilities at the beginning of the round here. You can see I've already had 20 DDTs come through, so I've used up all of the abilities, and now I'm using the Pop and Awe to stun the DDTs until I've got a whole bunch of them on screen, and then I use the Ground Zero to take them all out. Now, what this did do is mess with my Moab Assassin targeting, so they weren't always hitting the ZOMGs. I think I may have also missed using a Sabotage Supply Line early on while I was trying to stun all the DDTs. So those ZOMGs got much farther down the track than I would have hoped for. So you can see they almost make it all the way around by the time they finally get popped. And you can see here I'm using off all of my abilities. I've used the farm to know when the last balloon is entered. Once the farms have stopped producing bananas or banana crates, there will be no more new balloons on the track. So I used up all of my Moab Assassins and all of my Ground Zeros because I knew they would be recharged by the time those ZOMGs finally did get popped. So you can see the speed difference there. Those first two ZOMGs are not under the Sabotage Supply Line, which is why they're getting so far ahead of all the others. Now, this creates a little bit of havoc here. So, since I saw that they were still at least half health, I just started spamming the Pop and Awe ability so that I could stun them as long as possible while dealing damage. And then, since I ran out of abilities, I had to start selling and rebuying a tower so that I could keep using those abilities. So you can see I also sold off 2 of my Ground Zeros just so I would have some room where I could use it. Now, you can see if you actually do get the Sabotage Supply Line in time to slow down those ZOMGs, they're not as much of a problem. You can see I've still got, I don't know, 6 or 7 ZOMGs on the left there that have been slowed down, and they're getting stunned by the snipers, which is very helpful. And you can see on the right, this is kind of where I was freaking out a little bit because those 2 ZOMGs are basically at the exit already, and they're not popped. But once they get down to BFBs, you can keep them stunned permanently using the Pop and Awe ability, which is a little bit overpowered right now, it seems. Especially if you just keep selling and rebuying the ability to create a permanently stunned effect. So, I don't even know how many abilities I used, but it was quite a lot. You can see I'm using them every second. I'm just constantly buying, selling ability, or buying ability, selling, whatever order, because I'm trying to slow down the ZOMGs as well. And there's a lot of bombs on the screen. And there you see I finally was able to pop them down to the BFBs, so now as long as I can keep them stunned over there, then I'm good. So now it was just making sure I had enough of the pop and awe ability to stun them, as well as occasionally using off my other abilities to deal damage. So I use the Ground Zero when I can, and the Moab Assassin when I can. I also use the Call to Arms and the Sabotage Supply Line again to affect the balloons that were still on the left side of the screen there, that were all still under fire from most of my Moab Assassins. And the Sabotage Supply Line will also work for balloons which get spawned from other balloons, so when the ZOMGs pop into BFBs and the BFBs pop into Moabs, those blimps will be slowed down as well, not just from the blimps or balloons that enter from the beginning of the track. So you can see, because I've been using this ability so much, those BFBs that are right up near the exit have basically been permanently stunned this entire time, which, quite frankly, is, a little overpowered. But you can also see how much effort it's taking to do that, so, it may or may not be. I'm still leaning towards it is overpowered, though. But yeah, anyways, after this round, I played a couple more, but it was getting a little boring just spamming abilities like this. So I quit out after round 105. So I'm kind of hoping that we'll get a new map next week, either on grass terrain, the hills terrain, or maybe even the snow terrain, which can allow for the max sacrifice temples, as well as mortars and bombs and everything else that's needed. So, I don't know, just a little hope for me. And now you see that I've finally dealt with everything that's off on the side there. I'm placing my towers that I had sold, 2 ground zeros and 1 mortar tower, back in there so that I can use them for the next rounds. The other thing to note is, once you're at the end of the round, you want to make sure all of your Moab Assassins recharge, so you don't want to use them. That way, they'll be ready for the DDTs at the start of the next round. And yeah, so that was my fun little game today. So I don't think I'll be trying this on my level 16 account, because without spike factories, that account just won't be able to do much, especially against the DDTs. So you'll have to just make do with just this video. And there we have it. Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.